Hello students, today we are going to study Chapter 1 Post-World War Political Developments Part 1 Standard 9 Subject Political Science. In this chapter, we are going to study India's relations with the world and some major global issues. There are many independent nations in the world like India. Some exchange and interaction goes on between them constantly. These independent states also enter into treaties with each other. A system of all these independent sovereign states comes up. We call it as international system. Let us now study the features of international system. The first one is interdependence. All the countries of the world are dependent on each other for one reason or the other. Even big nations have to depend upon other big and small nations. Thus, interdependence is an important feature of the international system, that is, today's global system. The second feature is international relations through foreign policy. Every nation has a policy about its internal dealings, as also about its relations with other nations. Such a policy is called foreign policy. Let us know the background of the contemporary world. The world in which we live today has been shaped through many events and developments. Hence, we need to go back to history in order to understand today's world. We know that two world wars were fought in the last century. These were the most important events in the world in that century. The world completely changed because of them. First World War. The First World War was fought from 1914 to 1918 between the Allied powers and the Central Powers. The Allied powers include Britain, France, Russia, Italy, America, and the Central Powers include Germany, Austria, Hungary, Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria. Major countries of Europe took part in the First World War. Europe had a very central place in the international or global system at that time. The war caused a tremendous loss of life and property. The countries which joined the war suffered tremendous economic losses. Even the countries which did not join the war were impacted by the war. The economies of the victorious as well as the losing countries collapsed. At the end of the First World War, all the nations felt that such a war should not happen again and some measures need to be taken to achieve that end. An international organization called the League of Nations was established out of this thinking. It became an important platform to solve the international disputes and carry out negotiations. The main responsibility of the League of Nations was to avoid war. Major changes came about in Europe and outside Europe. Earlier, empires in Europe collapsed and new nations came into being. Many European countries had their colonies in the continents of Africa and Asia. Movements for independence started in these colonies. League of Nations was established after the First World War to establish peace, but it did not succeed at preventing war because autocratic regimes came up in Germany, Italy, Spain, and other countries. Let us now study about the Second World War. The Second World War was fought from 1939 to 1945 between the Allied powers and the Axis powers. Second World War proved to be far more destructive than the First World War. Not only was it more widespread compared to the First World War, but also more advanced technology was employed in this war. America played a major role in the Second World War. It had manufactured nuclear weapons. In order to end the war, it dropped two nuclear weapons on two cities of Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, on 6th and 9th August 1945. The Second World War ended with the defeat of Germany in Europe and of Japan in Asia. In the next part of this chapter, we shall study about the Cold War and the effects of the Cold War.